Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rabbi Eliezer Malamed Shlita. Here we are midweek as we are getting closer to Chag Pesach. Just a reminder that if you'd like to access the episodes we did on the meaning of Pesach and Leil HaSeder from last year, just do a search in your podcast provider under this title and you will find it easily enough. If you have any issues, please let me know and I will guide you accordingly. But we continue to daven for Chalei Tzvagana Yisrael, or for Shalem al Chalam Yisrael, and safe return of our hostages. And our learning is dedicated Le'ilu Nishmas, Seren Daniel Shimon, Ben Harav Darum Rishele Hashem Yakum Damo. So the next chapter we have Konei Mocher V'Tashuli Mas. Let's get a little bit more into the taxes issue. It's April. It's tax season for us. I hope everybody has filled out their IRS taxes here in the United States because the deadline is approaching. So in previous halachas, we mentioned certain opinions in the poskim about the obligation to pay taxes. And according to most poskim, this is considered a Torah obligation. Therefore, every single person has to pay his taxes. So particularly in Israel, a person should look at this as a welcome obligation, because by paying your taxes, you become a partner in absorbing new olim, in ensuring the security of the state of Israel, building the state of Israel, etc., etc. Now, that doesn't mean that we can look away from the many deficiencies that we still have, even among elected officials. But nonetheless, since they were duly elected by the community, and they have the strength of rulers of government, of, as we use the term previously, tovei ha'ir, tovei ha'kahal, mitzvah kol echad l'shalem es misav, therefore we have to follow their rules, and you have to pay the taxes. But let's be realistic, and when it comes to paying taxes, it's a very difficult test. Because when it comes to money, the tava, the desire to keep your money, can sometimes ruin your straight way of thinking. Lamashal. So here's an example. So a person goes to a store and he wants to buy something, and he asks the price. So the seller says, "Beli cheshbonit 500 shekalim, v'im cheshbonit 600." If you pay off the books, I'm just putting this in our terms. So we have this, by the way, it happens in stores as well. If you pay in cash, you don't pay taxes. But if I have to put it on the books, then you'll have to pay the taxes. So he says, okay, 500 in cash, 600 if you pay it on the books. Hanisiyan kasha. It's a very difficult test. Shahari lo kal levater al 100 shekel, because 100 shekel or $100 is $100. V'af l'mocher yesh nisayan kasha. And even for the seller, it's a difficult test. Hovu ma'adif l'mkor kama sheyoser bezol. Because which is better for him, to sell it cheap or not? However, the halacha is clear that one cannot steal taxes from the government. Therefore, it's an obligation for every single person to buy it on the books with a receipt, etc. However, there might be certain instances. Let's say you're buying it from a relative, you're buying it from a friend. Someone who's not an actual businessman, a seller, you're just buying something from a friend. So then, perhaps without this type of official receipt, because maybe he would have given it to you even as a gift. But you want to give him something, at least for his bother. So again, we're talking about buying from official stores that have to pay sales tax, things like that, not from individuals. Another question that pops up from time to time. Is there an obligation on the purchaser to find out and seek out a receipt? Do we have to create proper invoicing for every single sale? In other words, you have to look after it. Because if you're doing so, then of course it'll be known that the seller will have to pay tax on the sale. Or is this the responsibility of the seller? L'shalem masal says cheshbonis, that he has to pay tax, he has to create proper invoicing and receipts. And it's not the obligation of the purchaser. The purchaser just wants to buy the item. Whatever you charge me, I'll pay it. You want to make a receipt, you want to make an invoice, you want to pay taxes, that's your business. So it's an interesting question that comes up. So Lamaisi says, practically speaking, ein chova al hakoneh lidrosh cheshbonit. There is no obligation on the purchaser to look for an invoice or receipt. And if he does so in such a way where there is no invoicing, then he's not violating any prohibition. As opposed to, let's say, if he says, listen, I want to pay a cheaper price if we keep it off the books, that certainly is a prohibition. But if he doesn't ask, he doesn't say anything, and that's just what happens, then he doesn't violate anything, the purchaser. But nevertheless, but it could be that even though maybe you're not violating something, you could be what's called a mesayeh ledvar avera. You're assisting, aiding, and abetting in someone committing a sin. And we have the mitzvah that says that you can't stand idly by for the blood of your brother. As we have seen in past shiurim, months and months ago, that this also includes the obligation to save your friend from a monetary loss. And the Rambam writes in Sefer HaMitzvos, Reish Tzadi Zayin, and the general public and the congregation, the community, is no less important than an individual. Therefore, one should ask for proper receipts and invoicing when purchasing. This way you'll know that the taxes will be paid. But this is not an obligation. Because when you're purchasing something, you have no idea what the seller is doing, if they're paying their sales tax or not. Because who knows what's going on? You have no idea what goes on with other people's books. Maybe they have certain exemptions, whatever it might be. But the bottom line is that we have an obligation to pay our taxes, and if we intentionally try to go around the obligation to pay the taxes, this is a violation of the Torah. And in Israel particularly, one should look at it as a privilege because you're helping support the state, the security, and the building of the state of Israel. In any event, we continue our learning tomorrow. Please daven for Chayalei Tzva Haganah Yisrael, for Shalom L'Cholam Yisrael, safe return of all of our hostages. Do an extra mitzvah, Nishmat, Saren Daniel Shimon Ben Harav Dalon Visheli Harashem Yakum Damo. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you here next time. Have a great day.